Hello. So it's time to talk about a goth girl. Okay. So this is number 10, I believe, in the Digimon Tamers discussion videos, and I have one more after this in regards to the Tamers themselves, and then there's a bunch of other some of the adults that I'm going to be discussing, different groups within this, like Hypnos and the Monster Makers. I'll be bringing the Monster Makers up in this one. This video is going to be about Alice McCoy and her Digimon Dobermon. Now, so we only see them for, I think, about 3 episodes at the most, so they're not around for very long, and we never actually get a definitive answer of whether or not, like, Alice has, like, a Digivice, in regards to, like, a connection with Dobermon that way, but even for however short amount of time they're around each other, they develop a very strong bond very quickly. So a little bit of history for the characters. Alice McCoy is the granddaughter of Rob Dolphin McCoy, who is one of the Monster Makers. Her grandfather, initially, like, for the longest time, literally until, like, I recorded this video, I assumed that she was Dolphin's daughter, not his granddaughter, because we see his son in, like, a couple of flashbacks or, like, videos that we have in the series, but we don't really see her, and I just thought that she was, like, a much younger daughter. No, she's the straight up granddaughter. So yeah. I'll go in a little bit more about Dolphin himself when I do the Monster Maker discussion video, but he's one of the people, along with Henry's father, John Yu, and several other people, that were the ones that developed Digimon in the first place. They developed what initially would evolve into, or digivolve into, the Digimon. And we see his son in various flashbacks, and then Alice is his granddaughter. We do see her in a picture on his desk at one point before we're actually introduced to her, like during the time frame that we're being introduced to her, to get that connection shown there. And I apologize if you hear a phone going off in the background. That's my mom's phone. But what we see when it comes to Alice and the McCoy family in general is that they seem to have connections with Digimon, because, like, her father, who I don't know if we ever get a name on him, is actually quite a bit, is, like, had designed a lot of, like, the basic prototypes for Digimon, as in, like, drawing out what they looked like and stuff like that. And we see that in flashback, and I'll go into that a lot more when I talk about, like, how the Monster Makers developed the Digimon in the first place, but that's a different video. But Alice, so she would have grown up around her father and her grandfather, probably discussing Digimon at various points in time. And eventually, somehow, she ended up coming across a Digimon. And it is stated within the episode that possibly not within the episode that we meet them, but within, like, 1 or 2 episodes, it's stated that Dobermon is actually a messenger from the Sovereigns, from the Digimon Sovereigns, a Zulongmon and, Chuchaomon and Biomerge and the tiger, who I can never remember his name. Sorry. I'll remember it when I have to do the Sovereigns video. Sorry, I don't remember it. But we see we learn that Dobermon is a messenger. Kind of the way that we're also introduced to Alice and Dobermon is that we're just straight up shown them, like, being attacked by agents of the D-Reaper. Yeah. Well, the D-Reaper is, like, attacking humanity, all around the world and everything like that at various points, and specifically in the area where the Tamers are. They're fighting against them, and we see Dobermon and Alice, getting attacked by them, and, like, Dobermon defends her and everything. And then eventually they end up finding their way to where Takato, Rika, and Henry are. And what we basically see is, I don't remember if Alice ever actually, like, straight up tells them her name or not. I know she doesn't say that she's, like, the daughter or the granddaughter of, like, one of the Monster Makers, because the only one that have any idea what that would be would probably be Henry, but even then, it doesn't mean that he would remember that at that exact moment, and I don't think that's ever actually explained to the Tamers, to Takato and his group. But they show up, and Dobermon is very much, I love the fact that he's just basically, like, this giant dog with, like, a really spiky collar. I do think there was issue though with like his design versus let's see, it would have been Houndoom from Pokemon. I think there was like too much similarity between the two of them. Again, you're pulling from similar source material here. But whatever. But what ended up happening was, Dobermon is very, like, he seems very aggressive and growly and everything. And, like, Takado's like, is your Digimon okay? And Alice is like, he's okay. And this is basically what she says.
Dobermon is just on his guard. He's been hunted mercilessly since he arrived in the real world. It wants to stop him from his quest.
So, yeah, we kind of see, she already has this connection with Dobermon pretty quickly in the short amount of time that she's been around him. But we also see that, he's here on a mission. And we find out that this mission is that he is actually holding kind of like, I'm assuming it's like some type of digital code or something like that within his body that when released will interact with the different with the tamers that can biomerge. So Takado, Rika, Henry, and then Rio, and allow them to be able to biomerge in the human world or in the real world, because as Henry stated earlier in the same episode, well, we're not data anymore. And when we were in the digital world, we were data, and that's why we were able to, biomerge with our Digimon. But now, since we're back in the human world, since we're back in the real world, our Digimon are still data, but we're like back to being like a different type of biological entity that can't mold, that can't merge. So there's that, and like Henry stated that. So now it's just like, well, then what are we supposed to do? Cue, Alice and Dobermon. Admittedly, they have been, I think, back in the real world for around a week at this point in time, week and a half, maybe. Give or take. So it's not like Dobermon was sent immediately, like it's not like the Sovereigns were like, we just sent the humans back to the real world, and we just found out that they can biomerge with their Digimon. Should we be aware of the fact that they're going back into the real world where they're not going to be data anymore? I don't think Chu Chaomon cared necessarily, because he doesn't really care about about the Tamers, but like Azulongmon and Biomon and the Tiger probably would. And what happened, what I just imagine happening is they're just like, yeah, we didn't think about that. Okay, can we send them something that will allow them to biomerge while they're in the real world? Yeah, we can. Somebody find me a Digimon. Just like they just picked Dobermon. I don't know. Maybe he was next in line to become the dog Deva, for all I know. I don't know. Because all the other Devas except for Lopmon and Tealmon are gone now. They're all bye-bye. So maybe there's that. So maybe they picked like Dobermon they never explain why they picked Dobermon. It's just, he's just there. He's the one that was chosen, I guess, because he's like a dog. So he's like a messenger dog, I guess, is what they were going for. Possibly, but like they send Dobermon into the real world, and it's assumed at some point in this time frame he found Alice. Either maybe he bioemerged near where she was, appeared where she was, and maybe they did get a Digivice. Maybe she just like instantly attached herself to him because she knew what he was. Maybe he like finds her, or maybe they had like a bond beforehand, because like we never get a whole lot of other backstory on Alice as far as I'm aware. Maybe she already had a connection to Dobermon, and maybe they're like, well, we'll send Dobermon because he already has a tamer in the real world, and send him that way, which I think actually is a little bit crueler than what they did. And I'll get to that, because if you've seen the series, you know what happens with Dobermon, which hopefully you've seen the series before you're watching all these, or otherwise it's just like, well, go watch the series, because I can't do it all justice. But it's like either they just picked Dobermon and sent him there, and like that's where he met Alice, and then she like agreed to help him because like she knew what Digimon were because of her father and her grandfather, and probably saw everything on the news, because at this point in time everybody knows what Digimon are after the giant pig attacked Tokyo. The giant pig attacked part of Tokyo. And so we have that. But so Alice agrees to help him, and like he helps protect her as she's like guiding him, I guess, to where the Tamers are. I also just like Alice's outfits of like this very gothic dress and everything, and I'm just like, she looks like you took Luna Lovegood and like just dyed her black, just dyed all of her clothes black. I'm like, I'm okay with this. Also, I have a niece that could pull off this, that if she ever wanted to cosplay a Digimon character, I'd be like, take this, just dress like this, you'll look fine. Just find yourself a giant black dog, you're fine. That can be your cosplay. That would be that. But what we end up seeing is, Dobermon and Alice arrive at where the three Tamers are, and she explains that, Dobermon's here to deliver a message, and during this time frame, they just kind of got attacked by several of the D Reaper's agents. And they managed to, it's kind of like, well, they also protected Alice from getting attacked by one of them. And, during this time frame, it's just like, I don't remember exactly if it was like they were able to like push off the D Reaper's agents for the moment. So they're like kind of pushed to the side. Or like, incapacitate them for a short time while Alice is explaining herself, or like while their Digimon are like battling in the background against the Tamers or against the D Reaper. And then what ends up happening is, Alice gets very sad very, very quickly, and they're like, well, they're kind of like, well, why are you getting sad or so, or like, but Dobermon just goes, like he says goodbye to Alice, and then he, kind of jumps into the air, and he exclaims that he has this, I bring a message from the Sovereign. They're fighting the D Reaper in the digital world, but it's, its true form is here, or it's like heart or mind or whatever is like here in the real world. And I bring you a gift that will allow you to biomerge, with your Digimon. While in the real world, and he releases this power, and unfortunately, it also in the process it destroys him as he releases this power, and we see him like turn into these two separate beams of light, both with a dog head, and like the power whirls around the Tamers, and then they they're able to biomerge with their Digimon. And then of course they head off, and they go and they fight the D Reaper's agents, and they're able to defeat a bunch of the ones that are around them at that point in time. Somewhere in this time frame, that's when Justimon shows up. And then like Kazu and Kenta show up during this time frame and everything, and like stuff finds about Jerry, and they learn about Jerry being inside the D Reaper during all of this time frame. But we also see Alice looking very, very sad, and she kind of just she's like watching as all of this happens, because it's not like she's against what Dobermon is trying to do. She understands that his mission was to come to the real world and then deliver this gift or so to the Tamers, so that way they're able to biomerge, because that's the best way that they can fight the D Reaper. So it's not like she was against that. She was against losing her friend in the process, and she may not have known Dobermon very long, but now he's kind of gone. And we see this moment where she's just, she's very, very sad, but she's also just like watching the battle. And the particles that are left from Dobermon just kind of swirl around her and appear, and like they form into his head, and like he licks her face, because like they were friends, and she was very kind to him, and she helped him in his mission. And and then like he kind of vanishes, and like he tells her, thank you, Alice, thank you for for helping me get to where I needed to be and everything. And she just kind of goes off. Depending on the continuity, I think like in I don't know if it's in the English translation one, or if it's in the UK version, I guess. It's kind of like maybe Alice got attacked by a D Reaper and got killed, and I'm like, I kind of hope not. I hope not. But we also see her like after the battle, she's kind of just like leaving and everything. And we never actually see her again. And I don't remember if we even find out whether or not whether or not Dolphin, her grandfather, finds out that she was like at this battle or whatever. I don't know if we ever find that out. We never see her again. Rika makes a comment at some point, like after the battle, about like, that girl, I hope she's okay, type of a thing. But there's not really much else that we find out about Alice. And as I stated before in the Jerry and Leomon video, we don't know if Digimon have the ability to come back in this version of the digital world. Given the amount of pain and chaos that the D Reaper causes, you would have thought that that would have been something that was like brought up at some point in time, or that, you know, the sovereigns would have mentioned about, you know, that someone would have mentioned about Leomon. Like, even if it was just like Renamon having like this offhanded comment because she seems to know a fair amount about the digital world. You know, or like even, you know, like Lopmon having this, having like a comment about like, you know, oh, well, you know, Leomon's data might go back to, you know, Primary Village or the Village of New Beginnings, or like, I don't know, whatever you want to insert name for whatever they want to call it, where the Digimon are born and then they head off. But that's not really something that we see with this version of the digital world. So if that was the case, then it would be, there's a possibility that, you know, Dobermon could come back. He may not be exactly the same Dobermon, but he might be able to come back and then like be reunited with Alice. But again, that's not really something that we see happen throughout the course of this season. That's not something that they touch upon really at all. But yeah, I mean, like, I like Dobermon. He's just, you know, this giant freaking dog with a, you know, giant spiky black collar, and he actually is like, I like that he's a very good apt description of the way that like Rio describes Cyberdramon. It's like, oh, he's just really a puppy on the inside. I don't believe you. And it's just like, I would believe that about Dobermon, because like, I would believe that about Dobermon because, well, A, he literally is just a giant dog and a giant puppy, and, you know, all dogs will act like puppies at various points in time, no matter how old the dog is. And what ends up happening, you know, just like, you know, he's, you know, he likes being, you know, petted and calmed down by Alice. I will mention this. My aunt and uncle that live in Omaha, for like the first several years that they were married, and even, you know, for a while when they first got married, they had two big black dogs. One was called Talbot and one was called Lamaeus. And then later on, they got another big black dog named Henri. Unfortunately, all three dogs are dead now, but they do have another dog. Her name is Charlotte, and she's, you know, she belongs to my cousin, that live in Omaha. And like, these are, you know, these were three big black dogs. And like, I always remember just like them being very sweet dogs. I mean, like, yeah, they like wrestle with each other, or like wrestle with like my uncle and stuff like that to, you know, get out energy. But they were just, for the most part, very sweet dogs. And like, that's just, you know, that's why I don't look at dogs as like, yeah, there might be some dogs that are scary, but that doesn't mean like the entire species is scary. I know that like Dobermans are also dogs that are usually considered to be very fierce and protective dogs, but all dogs can be fierce and protective. I mean, like, even Chihuahuas can be fierce and protective. It's just the big giant black Doberman that's got big teeth is a lot more threatening than like the Chihuahua. So yeah, we have that. But yeah, that's just my association with big black dogs, or like these big, you know, three big dogs. But they were so sweet. And with Alice, it's, you know, there's the possibility that maybe like her grandfather found out about stuff, like maybe Takato or Rika or Henry mentioned something about them, about meeting Alice and what happened, you know, kind of give the monster makers an update on like, well, now we can biomerge. What's biomerging? They didn't, okay, other side note, the adults did not know that they could merge with the Digimon. They did not know that. And it actually scared them. Yumaki got very scared about that. Very scared, very angry about that. But I'll go into that more in Yumaki's video. But yeah, Alice is like the Digidestin or the tamer that we spend like the least amount of time with. Which is saying something, because like we don't spend that much time with like IE and Mako around Impmon, but we get like flashbacks with them and the way that they interact. But we spend a lot of time with Impmon, so there's a difference there. But then also when it comes to like the next one that I'm going to talk about, Minami and her Digimon Caesarmon that are from the Battle of Adventures movie, you know, they're just in there for one movie, but we still learn a fair amount about them. So Alice and Dobermon are like the ones we kind of know the least about. So that's what we have for Alice, McCoy, and Dobermon. I thank you for watching. This is definitely probably the shortest out of all of the tamers. So I thank you for watching. I hope you enjoyed the video. And I have hiccups now. Fun. I hope you enjoyed the video, and I hope you have a nice rest of your day. Bye.